Hello everyone and welcome back to Interesting but Scary. In this video, we will be taking a look at the most terrifying cave diving story in the history of the universe. A story that features the agonizing deaths of 3 young people. A story which you're probably watching at 1 a.m. by yourself in your very dark bedroom, which you probably shouldn't do. It's not too late to click away and go watch a pimple-popping video instead. As always, viewer discretion is advised. The year is 2010. Timmy's son, Donald Donaldson, and Sandy Sanderson have just graduated from a prestigious Sydney law school. To celebrate, the 3 decide to explore Satan's Death Trap, a flooded cave in the middle of Australia's outback that's notorious for killing everyone who enters it. Timmy and Donald were experienced cave explorers who had gone into dozens of other caves over the past several years, while Sandy had just learned how to explore caves after reading a WikiHow article. On December 20th, the 3 headed to Satan's Death Trap. At the entrance was a sign warning them that if they went inside, they would die. This was no laughing matter, as 300 cavers had died exploring the cave just the week before. Ignoring the sign, the 3 headed into the cave, ready to begin their adventure. Once inside Satan's Death Trap, Timmy, Donald, and Sandy dressed in wetsuits and diving gear they bought at the dollar store and started down the cave's main shaft. However, after going only 3 inches, Sandy's flippers hit the cave wall and flooded it with silt, reducing visibility to nothing. Panicking, the 3 got separated. Thankfully, Sandy managed to make it to the surface, but was attacked and killed by koalas armed with rocket launchers. In the shaft, Timmy and Donald were attacked by 50 blue-ringed octopuses and had no choice but to dive deeper into the shaft to escape. After reaching the bottom of the shaft and entering an air pocket, Timmy and Donald decided to honor Sandy's memory by proceeding deeper into the cave that had murdered her until she was dead. They then found the tunnel known as the Skin Shredder, a tunnel that was just barely big enough for one person to crawl through, and was covered with rat poison and cheese graters. Excited at the thought of exploring this tunnel, Timmy and Donald squeezed themselves inside only to discover that the floor of the tunnel was covered in slick mud. They subsequently slid down the tunnel for 5 miles, breaking every bone in their bodies before landing in the Chamber of Certain Death. Looking around, Timmy and Donald saw that the floor of the Chamber of Certain Death was covered in dirty needles, poop gathered off the streets of San Francisco, broken glass, rusted chainsaws, and menacing statues of Margaret Thatcher. Unsure if they should continue, Timmy prayed for guidance and was answered by the spirit of Genghis Khan, who promised to lead the 2 to safety. Unfortunately, neither Timmy or Donald could understand Mongolian, so they ignored him. Going to the end of the chamber, the 2 found that the only way out was a tiny tunnel known as the Skeleton Smasher. Excited at the thought of exploring this tunnel, the 2 decided to head inside. However, Timmy realized it had been 10 minutes since he had eaten a Nature Valley granola bar. With death by starvation only weeks away, Timmy ate Donald, making sure to season him with 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, Heinz ketchup, and a pinch of paprika. His hunger now satisfied, Timmy decided to continue on to honor Donald's sacrifice. Squeezing into the Skeleton Smasher, Timmy slithered headfirst down the tunnel, only to fall down a vertical shaft, bouncing off sharp rocks for a full 10 hours before landing in a subterranean lake. When he surfaced, Timmy realized he had gone too deep as he had found a Balrog of Morgoth. The demon chased Timmy, who ran towards an ancient dwarvish staircase. If he went up this staircase, Timmy would make it back to the surface, be reunited with his family, and have a happy life as a lawyer making $10,000 an hour representing oppressed war orphans in court. However, Timmy saw an incredibly tiny tunnel nearby that was called the Eyeball Exploder. Excited at the thought of exploring this tunnel, Timmy squeezed himself inside and crawled for several miles until the tunnel narrowed, and he became hopelessly stuck. Timmy wept, realizing that he was going to die in this tunnel, never to go home and watch Morbius on Blu-ray for the 57th time that week. And yet, in the darkness, something stirred within Timmy. He was not going to die in the tunnel. He was going to escape, get back to the surface, and watch Morbius again. With renewed determination, Timmy somehow managed to keep going, inch by inch, down the incredibly small tunnel. Escaping the tunnel, Timmy entered a chamber known as Hell's Waiting Room, which was filled with the skeletons of 10 million cave explorers who had died here in the past day alone. Looking around, Timmy saw a magical shrine that, if prayed to, would summon Jesus Christ, who would then take Timmy out of the cave and up to heaven, where he would be reunited with his friends and enjoy eternal happiness. As the chamber filled with lava, Timmy ran towards the shrine, only to notice a tiny crack in the floor that led to a tiny tunnel known as the Tunnel of Eternal Suffering. Excited at the thought of exploring this tunnel, Timmy squeezed himself inside and got stuck yet again. At that point, the tunnel sucked Timmy inside, and he was sent down to hell, where he would spend eternity being forced to watch Madame Web on infinite repeat. 5 days later, on Christmas Day, authorities realized that Timmy, Donald, and Sandy hadn't returned from the cave and dispatched rescue divers to find them, half of whom were killed by kangaroos en route to the cave. The surviving divers worked non-stop for 2 whole minutes to try and find Timmy, Donald, and Sandy before dying themselves. To ensure that no one would ever die in Satan's death trap ever again, 3 Lego bricks were laid down across the cave entrance. Unfortunately, on the way back to civilization, the remaining rescuers were attacked by 70 trillion funnel web spiders and died. It was the worst Christmas ever. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, click, and subscribe to get hundreds more stories about people experiencing the most horrifying deaths imaginable, instead of something fun like a doctor popping the world's biggest pimple on someone's nose or something. See you all next time.